If you like this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, your name can appear at the beginning of this and many other upcoming videos.
I actually got excited when I found out you were gonna be our coach. I figured if any pony can make Cheer Squad awesome, it's you. Me? Why? Because everything's always awesome with you. Or 20% cooler. Or whatever. You're the most enthusiastic pony in Equestria when it's something you care about. I just wish we were one of those things.
Whoa. The way she said that, just... I fucking felt that. Well, it finally happened. After the streak of fun and entertaining episodes Season 9 has been putting out, we have an episode that's just so painful. 246 Grade found itself being a really infamous episode pretty quickly, and I honestly can't blame people for feeling that way because it was not an easy one to sit through. Twilight and Celestia are busy setting up a buckball game between their two schools, and to help set things up, Twilight assigns Rainbow Dash to coach the cheerleading squad. The only problem is that Dash doesn't seem to have any interest in cheerleading, and she shows that in the absolute worst ways possible. Can Dash stop being a dick long enough to actually put forth an effort to get everyone ready in time? Did she even need to be such a dick in the first place to get the message across? I don't think so. So before I rip this thing a new one, I would like to talk about the strengths this episode has because there are good things about it. I particularly like how Snails is given more characterization in this episode, really making up for how he was just annoying background noise throughout the course of the series. With this episode and the other one he was in, he actually has a personality now, a money-grubbing businessman who also maintains some common sense. They actually have him be a voice of reason and being helpful while keeping him in character, which I think is much more humorous. Not to mention, he actually has some pretty strong magic for being such a small unicorn. It's actually surprising just how quickly they managed to redeem Snips, making him an actual character in the final days of the show. I also think it's a nice bit of continuity to have Celestia's interest in sports tie into her character in some way. Between Dawn and Dusk made it clear that she was a very active pony who liked to engage in energetic hobbies, so being a fan of buckball actually makes sense for her. I like how Ocellus is trying to come out of her shell and trying to express herself in different ways, seeing cheerleading as a means to appeal to others as more than just being a changeling. By the end of the episode, she's able to pull off her cheers without any kind of embarrassment or shyness, which is really good progression for her since she's considered the most timid of the students. I really like Smolder. The moment where she finally puts her foot down and starts standing up to Rainbow Dash really shows how she's not afraid of confronting authority with the truth. Seeing her expressing how deeply she was invested in cheerleading and how hurt she felt that Dash didn't care about them, it genuinely felt like she was hurt, and the disappointment just rings a really strong chord with what she was going through. Not to mention, she's openly expressing her girly side by dressing up in public, feeling more comfortable with being honest about her interest and showing it to others. She's amongst the most developed of the Student 6 alongside Yona and Gallus, really showing how much she's changed and how far she's come since she started off as a tomboy dragon who didn't think very highly of anything unrelated to dragons. And that's about it. That's pretty much all the nice things I can say about this episode. So where exactly does this episode go wrong? Well, basically anything related to Rainbow Dash and Twilight. And because Rainbow Dash is the main character, we're stuck with her just being the absolute worst throughout the episode. Her behavior towards the cheerleading squad is so obnoxious and so mean-spirited that it feels like we're watching the Rainbow Dash from Season 1. It's not that she has no interest in cheerleading, it's that she puts absolutely no effort into helping the cheerleading team get ready for the big game. She acts incredibly snotty and ignorant towards them, almost as if they're not even there. She has so many lines of dialogue that really bother me because it's the kind of dialogue that feels like it was written to get under people's skin. She says she was watching them cheer? No, she wasn't. She was looking out the window and didn't even notice all the crashing happening behind her. She tries to defend herself by claiming that she actually did something. All she did was throw a bunch of props at them and expect them to do all the work by themselves. And then she says that it's not her fault that she failed to be a good coach, actively blaming the cheerleading squad for her own incompetence. And then what does she say after sending Ocellus off crying?
It's not my fault you couldn't figure out how to use it right.
Well, you could have shown us!
Oh, ponies might actually care about Cheer Squad if she cheered like that all the time.
That was just insensitive and cruel. Fuck you, Dash, you're worse than Tarek when he backstabbed Discord. What really upsets me so deeply is just the attitude that Dash is showing towards people who are supposed to be her friends. She just comes across as needlessly condescending and doesn't care at all about her responsibilities or the trust that Twilight was putting into her. Seriously, this is supposed to be one of the ponies who's going to rule Equestria? She can't even be trusted with a cheerleading squad. What makes you think she can be trusted with an entire country? She repeatedly ignores the routine and doesn't consider the stress that the team is going through. They're on a schedule to get this done in time and they're being forced to get it done without any help from the coach. She's dense, needlessly selfish, and just really bratty for no reason. The least she could have done was put in the tiniest bit of effort in helping them out. It's really frustrating that you have all these characters actually excited and looking forward to being a good cheerleading team, but Dash just acts like that dismissive parent who only pretends to be invested in their kids doing something but not even actually caring to see them do it. Even if you want to make the argument that it's in character for her to not be interested in cheerleading because she's more of a crowd pleaser, that doesn't excuse her attitude or ignorance. Dash has already been through 8.5 seasons worth of character growth. She's supposed to be a lot less clueless than this. She doesn't even fit in the scenario properly because she already learned a lesson about doing something you don't like for a friend in a previous season. When Snips and Snails are a better highlight of the episode than the main character, that's just embarrassing. And that's not including how asinine it was for Twilight to pull off the stunt that she did. Right from the get-go, she thinks that it's a good idea to place Rainbow Dash, the more athletic pony who's already coached the Buckball team, in charge of the cheerleading squad, when Pinkie Pie is right there and is much more experienced in cheerleading. And when it's revealed that she was aware of what was going to happen the whole time just to pull off a Trollestia, that makes it even worse. She deliberately set up a problem by placing Dash in a position that she wasn't interested in just to teach her a lesson that was conveniently retconned out of her. I'm pretty sure that placing your friends in a position that they have no knowledge about without any form of advice or warning is not a smart thing to do. It's almost kind of manipulative that she placed Dash in a position that she wasn't qualified for when there were so many others who were much more qualified just so we can have an ego-boosting joke at the end of the episode. And when you think about it, it doesn't even make any sense. She was knowingly placing Dash in a field way outside of her expertise at the expense of the cheerleading squad and what they actually needed. There wasn't even a guarantee that Dash was going to learn the lesson in time. Twilight gambled everything on Dash learning a lesson where it wasn't needed and just hoped that she would stop being a dick long enough to get them ready for the game. That was a huge dick move, and it just felt so forced and unnatural. What really makes this episode so terrible is just how absurd the setup is. The lesson they wanted to teach here is that even if you don't care about something, you should still care about your friends who do and enjoy doing it with them. And they wanted to teach that lesson with a story about Twilight assigning Rainbow Dash to coach a cheerleading squad. But there's too many problems with that setup. Dash didn't choose to be the coach, Twilight volunteered her. She was deliberately making her do something she wasn't interested in and gambling the success of the cheerleading team. And if Twilight thought that Dash was having a problem, she should have just taken the moment to talk to her about it. Or better yet, why didn't Dash just go to Twilight and explain to her how she's not the best choice for this idea? She could have said, Twilight, I know you volunteered me, but I just don't think I'm qualified for the job. Could you please ask someone else to coach the cheerleaders who would do a much better job than me? It's a problem that could have easily been solved by just having the characters communicate. And Dash didn't even have to learn anything. She wasn't causing any trouble until after Twilight got involved and volunteered her, so this conflict never had to happen in the first place. There were a bunch of ways that this issue could have been avoided altogether, by having Dash and Twilight actually discuss it, or just have someone else coach the cheerleaders so that Dash can coach the Buckball team. It just bugs me how obtuse this setup was. From Dash being needlessly cruel for the story to even work, to Twilight knowingly turning the cheerleaders into props for Dash to learn a lesson she didn't need to learn, to the several ways that this problem could have easily been solved. It just feels so ethically fake. And that's the biggest problem with the episode. In spite of its positive qualities, it just feels so fake in the execution of its main story. It feels like something that didn't need to happen and the audience just gets dragged around for a plotline that defeats itself in multiple ways. 246 Grade is a real disappointment because it didn't even need to be that way. It could have worked if they did things more properly, like having Dash learn her lesson sooner or even have her negative traits less excessive. But that didn't happen, and what we ended up getting was the first dud in what's otherwise been a solid season so far. So take that for what you might, and hopefully the next episode will be an improvement. So until next time, take care of yourselves and stay awesome. This is Map, signing out.